Damian Lillard, he is not a Toronto Raptor, if you all want to know. He didn't end up with the Raptors. Quelle surprise. The market that is essentially always the bridesmaid, that is always used to be pretty much this. Oh, Shohei could be a Blue Jay. Could be A's. Could be coming down here. Oh, definitely. This could absolutely be happening. The Toronto Raptors, the team that is rumored to make trades for the last couple of years. A lot of rumors. We should start collecting all of the reports that the Raptors are in on a trade and put them in a big pile. I think that's actually how, that's the new fuel we could use. We could get away from fossil fuels. That's our new green energy, is just burn up whatever these Raptors trade rumors are. Here's what I don't understand. There's some people reporting that some executives don't believe Masai Ujiri was willing to put OG Anunoby in the deal. Because this is now, that is now reached, if this is the case, if there is any validity to that report, we have reached a point where we need to investigate the Toronto Raptors. There needs to be, what was it called with Trudeau? What was that thing called? The special constable? Remember they had the guy?
Things happen outside of sports. I have no idea.
Okay, you don't.
Not a well-rounded person.
Like a committee?
Yeah, no, but there was this guy had a special name for investigating. Oh, forget it. I shouldn't have asked. I forgot. I was in a room full of sports guys, and I forgot. That's my mistake. We need to have a special committee look into the Toronto Raptors and what is exactly happening here with OG Anunoby and the Raptors' love of him. I like OG Anunoby too, but he's going to require a huge contract after the season. There's been indications for 2 years that he's not thrilled about playing for the Raptors given what his offensive responsibilities are. And then you have a potential Damian Lillard trade on the table, and you aren't trading OG. You're trying to get away with Gary Trent, Grady Dick, and some contract filler and some picks. What? Yeah. Oh, I'm very surprised that they were going to balk at that offer, that they weren't going to go for that offer. Anyway, it's just, we've reached the point, the pure tipping point now, is something's got to happen. A deal has to be made. The Raptors have to pick a direction. We can't keep doing the same song and dance about, hey, maybe you just completely run this group back of guys that lost Fred VanVleet and replaced him with Dennis Schroeder. I'm not going to live in the fantasy land that the FIBA version of Schroeder is going to show up for the Raptors and carry them to some type of success this season. This iteration of the Raptors has been over for a long-ass time. And just, I don't know if it's the league trying to manipulate Masai Ujiri with some of these reports, like the one that was on the Raptors show the other day from Sean Highking saying that he's the guy in your fantasy league that sends you 20 trades and then cancels them all at the last minute. I've never related to anything more in my life, by the way. I've never sent a fantasy trade ever that wasn't either aggressively rude to the other person or something that within 15 minutes I went, no, I can't have this out there. I got to cancel this. There's a slight potential I lose this trade. So I get it, Masai. I understand Masai, but we are quickly trending into you're losing the benefit of the doubt territory. End of rant.
Okay. I hear you. And
I didn't even want the Damian Lillard trade, by the way.
I know. Well, this is it. I didn't want the Damian Lillard trade.
But not like this.
It does make a little more sense, though, if you're retaining the core that includes OG Anunoby. Well, they may be over.
It makes more sense,
but
Ben.
that's it. But apparently they were close enough to getting to the finish line without OG Anunoby in the deal that there was a... Doesn't the perception of this Damian Lillard...
How do you know that they were close enough?
Okay, well, all the reporting there.
No, the report said that they were
James
front-runners.
Charania sent out a tweet that Dame Lillard was a member of the Toronto Raptors and then deleted it.
He screwed up.
To me, that's, the guy's making that draft because he thinks this is pretty close to happening. Doesn't your perception of a potential Dame Lillard acquisition by a Raptors team that finished with 41 wins a season ago, lost in a play-in tournament game, doesn't that change if OG Anunoby is also part of the core of Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, and then added Dame Lillard and, well, you won't have Grady Dick because theoretically he would have been part of that deal and a bunch of first-round picks.
Dude, this is Fantasyland stuff. They were never going to do that deal. It would have had to include OG Anunoby.
But that's a bad deal, you would agree. That you just said. You would have acquired Dame Lillard.
Let me finish.
Okay.
The thing that I said was I would have done a deal for Damian Lillard that included Grady Dick and OG Anunoby, and that's it. I wouldn't have included first-round picks because the Raptors don't need to do that. You could have maybe done a pick swap next year or the following, whatever, something along those lines. But first-round picks mean something to the Toronto Raptors. They're not able to bring people here through signings.
They could have gotten 4 for OG at the deadline.
Yeah, that's my point, is you can't trade a guy like OG. If the market was what you're going to get is some crappy Miami Heat picks, which actually maybe weren't going to be that bad depending on how far in the future they were, considering, some of the age of the players that they have. Sure. But Tyler Hero is not as good of an asset as OG Anunoby. Like, just factually.
Yep.
His team went to the NBA Finals last year without him. And, pretty... Like, no one was really missing him. And even there was a case where it was, hey, Tyler Hero's getting healthy. No one was going, get him out there. They need him out there. They need Tyler Hero. And I actually don't mind Hero. I think he's fine. It's just he's not OG, man. He's not one of the best NBA defenders, period. He's not a corner shooting threat who is just easy, manageable like OG Anunoby. OG, the Raptors are not going to be able to retain moving forward. They can't keep this core. They're not going into the luxury tax for a 41-win team.
Spending $160 million on OG, it makes no sense.
This is the time to trade OG Anunoby.
Agreed.
It's the time to trade one of these players. And so if you were looking at it from just a practicality standpoint, I can understand the frustration of the Blazers when they're going, hey, we're working on trades. These guys have obviously been talking about OG for a long time. And then Masai's going, we just can't part with OG. What about if it's just trade filler guys and Gary Trent and we give you an extra first-round pick? And Portland's like, you know what? Screw this. Make the deal. Let's get this thing done. Let's go with this offer from the Bucks. We'll turn Drew Holiday into something eventually.
But I think ultimately, and you said it, you wouldn't have traded for Dame if you were the Raptors.
I wouldn't have traded for Dame if the parameters were OG, Grady Dick, and Gary Trent Jr. plus a pick. I just think it would have thinned you out too much. That's the way that they needed this. That was the easiest way to make the salary work. What I said was I would do it if it was Grady Dick, OG Anunoby, and a couple filler salaries like Thad Young and Chris Boucher, because that gets you there money-wise. I actually would have wanted Keon Johnson or Nasir Little back in the trade, just like those guys ended up getting moved. I put them kind of in there. And then I said, you can give them one first-round pick, one future first-round pick, period. That's the max that you could have done for Damian Lillard. And I honestly wouldn't have minded that. I really wouldn't have gone crazy over that. The Raptors would have been in position.
I mean, what are you this season with Dame and for a championship?
Yeah.
Really?
Look at the landscape of the NBA this year.
Yeah.
Look at the teams that you feel like you're certain about.
Yeah.
Like before this trade, Milwaukee was in a position where their star player was pissed off. Chris Middleton never looked like Chris Middleton. They couldn't create a shot. The trade that they made, Grayson Allen was one of their starters.
Right.
That is not a very deep team. They just lost to Miami because they lost Giannis for one series. That's how fickle it was. Miami ended up making a playoff run. If you're Masai and you were looking at that Heat team and you add Damian Lillard, you go, why can't that be us? Why can't the core of a Schroeder, a Dame? I don't think they would have won the championship, but I don't mind that as a swing over just running it back. At least it's a clear direction. At least
it would have been way more fun for us, for sure.
At least it's a position. Yeah. At least you're doing something. Doing nothing and running these guys in the season and then letting OG walk for nothing and then potentially trading Siakam for cents on the dollar. That's the nightmare position. Someone I really respect in the NBA yesterday put out a tweet that there's very few teams that are in a worse position right now than the Toronto Raptors. And I agree. They need to pick a lane. Yeah. And this whole idea of just asset hoarding and never moving off of one of your guys and thinking that this perfect trade is going to come along, it's only good in theory if you can move for that star or you decide to take the step back and accumulate a ton of draft picks. The Raptors are still in the area where there's neither. NBA starting, by the way. It's like it's October, everybody.
Days on Monday.
It's here. We've arrived. The offseason's over. There's not a ton of time. So yeah, I'm pretty frustrated. I think the fan base is frustrated. It's just like they're in a bad spot.
No, they are.
When you can steal the headlines from the Blue Jays who get no runs at home and take it as like the disappointing franchise of the day, like you've done something quite spectacular.
I would have liked it from a content standpoint. I still don't think that that's a championship contender. Swapping out again one of the best defenders in the NBA in OG Anunoby, a guy that maybe still has.
Raptors can't score and they can't shoot, and they lost Fred VanVleet.
I get it. I get
OG Anunoby is going to defend all their way to their 60 to 84 rock fights every Raptors game.
Dame makes up for the loss of all those players? Probably not. And Dame
you should watch Damian Lillard one time. I know you go to sleep. You're a morning show guy now, but you should see what Damian Lillard does when he plays basketball.
Great.
He's pretty good.
I know. True shooting percentage over 60%. He scores 1 million points.
A lot of people think that he's the second best shooter in NBA history.
And hard to argue. And limitless range, I get all that. It was hard for me to squint and see this team as a championship contender. Again, from a content perspective, I liked it. But you know what I liked a lot more? in fact, the Raptors were almost at the finish line without including OG Anunoby. That's something that you can really sell yourself
on. Are you on the PR team? Like,
no,
you're like, they were right there, and they almost got it done without, hey, almost, Mr. Almost. You were like, they almost got the trade done, guys. Hey, Raptors fans, they should hang that from the, we almost got Dame as you walk into the stadium.
To your point,
without OG, we could have had that team.
To your point, holding.
Did you hear that, season ticket holders? They should have, like, Crosby deliver those season tickets. They should have OG deliver them. It's like, I was almost not in the trade for Damian Lillard. Could have been me and Dame.
Yeah.
Come down. Got a new sound system.
To your point, though.
Less fires in the arena.
To your point, though, about having your price and sticking to it, which obviously Masai Ujiri has done and did with Fred VanVleet and watched him
it's really working. It's really working.
For nothing. Well, that's it. Like, you get to a certain point where that's all well and good, but, like, the clock eventually does tick, and you have no choice.
We're here, buddy.
Especially if the Raptors don't have this internal growth thing that's apparently going to happen with a new head coach, but the same players except some are worse. Like, obviously, and you don't control your own first-round pick. But guess what? Sorry, you got to either hope that you finish top 6 and protect your first-round pick, or just eat the fact that you won't own it at the end of the season. Yeah, at the deadline, that's it. You cannot go into an offseason where you're paying Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby their market value. So that's you. The time has come. There will be no losing those guys for nothing.
Yeah. Fred VanVleet signed a 3-year, $128 million contract. Dennis Schroeder signed a 2-year, $25 million contract. That is, it's just like, if you'd like. And by the way, that's a Toronto contract.
Yeah.
For, like,
that's
getting
right.
a guy,
The premium. Yeah.
Yeah, you paid the premium versus that's a Houston contract where there's no state tax. It's a pretty steep downgrade. This team, there is no path for this team outside of Scotty Barnes turning into Kevin Durant.
Exactly.
If Scotty Barnes turns into KD this year,
then you'll be eating your words, won't you?
Well, all of us will, because nobody believes that this team is a contender right now. Like, legitimately, no one does.
No.
So that is the path for the Raptors. I'm just, at this point, I think what is so frustrating for people is that it comes down to that same thing of Masai wasn't willing to up an ante to go in a direction, or Masai was not willing to capitulate in any way. And eventually it's going to force his hands. And people can say, and I don't think that there's, like, I think I'm kind of strawmanning here. There have been people that have gone, well, do you want a GM that buckles? Do you want a GM that's willing to trade for? No, but I do think that that's how any negotiation really happens, is that
know
your
your
side,
limit.
Exactly. You need to compromise to a degree. And I get it when it's Fred VanVleet and you wait until the trade deadline and people go, well, we'll give you nothing. You can't even get Terrence Mann from the Clippers. I'm a little bit more forgiving of a scenario like that. Although I will say, from the jump, you probably should have gotten that contract done before the season if you thought that the market was going to go this way.
And you underestimated. You
yes.
didn't think the Rockets were going to be a factor. You thought the Harden stuff, whatever. You correctly or incorrectly evaluated the landscape.
Yes, it's still a miss for them. I'm just saying I kind of get it when it's that. But now when we're hearing stuff like, hey, they actually got offered 3 firsts for OG and Anunoby, and they didn't do it, and you're like, okay. And they're like, hey, this is what the Atlanta Hawks have offered for Siakam. And you're like, that's a little underwhelming, but what's the plan otherwise? Like, what's happening here otherwise? And then it keeps moving forward, and nothing keeps happening. And now you hear Damian Lillard, which at least, dude, I'm telling Damian Lillard, Pascal Siakam, Jakob Poeltl, potential jump from Scotty Barnes. Like, that's an interesting team. That's a fun team. All of a sudden, people are going down to the arena. You and I talk about this all the time.
God, yeah.
There is a little bit too much of a premium on championship culture, and sometimes not enough on just
helped feed into that too.
Definitely, but this is also an entertainment product at the end of the day, and that's the thing that I think is really upsetting people with the Blue Jays. In part, is that they're in a playoff spot. They're likely to make the playoffs. This is not exactly the market that always does that, but people have been going to these ball games, and they got one of the worst offenses at home. So anybody that's gone to a game this year has likely left with a grind of a night. You didn't go there and watch a bunch of home runs and leave saying dingers are fun. Entertainment product also matters. So if you build a team around defense like the Blue Jays did, you better be one of the best teams in Major League Baseball. Otherwise, people might not be so pleased all the time. If you're going to build a basketball team, maybe don't run back the same unexhilarating group after you won a championship fairly recently and then refuse to essentially pick a direction. It's just, it's reached a boiling point. And I get where people are at. And I cannot believe that we, a city where, and I'm the same, I'm a part of this. I've said Masai Ujiri is one of the best representatives this city's ever had, period. Like, Masai Ujiri made Toronto Raptors fans believe in themselves. That's an unbelievable feat. When he would stand up there at podiums and be like, talking about the city, I would stand there like, ready for war, sir. Ready to go into battle, Masai. He is a humanitarian. He's a guy that won just about every single move that he had made as a Rat. He even fell into some where it's like he tried to trade Kyle Lowry, and then they were like, he's so good that we're probably losing this trade. Yeah. And the other team choked at the goal line getting Kyle Lowry. This is one of the most universally loved, beloved, endorsed, whatever you want to say, figures in Toronto sports history. And we're already at the point from a championship in 2019 where everyone's like, enough. Yeah. You have to do something, man. You got to do something.
Well,
and I think they're right.
Factual. That's just factual.
And I think that they're right. I think that the masses, for once, are right. Normally when the masses are like, fire this manager, I'm like, all right, everybody, relax. But this one, and I'm not saying fire Masai.
I was like, where are we going with this? I thought, like, yeah, dude,
you want to know?
Okay.
You really want to know?
Yeah, of course I want to know. What are you going to do?
Well, I think that if he decides to run it back, and he says, I'm bringing these guys into the season.
Re-signing Siakam and OG to their market value? You mean after another like underwhelming season, unless there's like huge growth and this is like a 50-win team?
If he's like, this is my core, this is what I'm staking moving forward, and then they go in through another year where it's just like play-in game, underwhelming, bad chemistry, and then either an OG leaves for free or we all look at that contract like, dude, why is this guy paid so much? He's actually not... You can't give a guy like that money because he's not a top 3 player on a championship winning team and he's paid top 3 player money. Yeah, I think that you're looking at front office overhaul. I think I'm serious. I don't know how else you could justify it. Look at the track record since the championship. Yeah. It's bad.
No, I know it is.
The running back season, you give reprieve because yes, the smart move would have been, hey, once Kawhi's gone, let's strip it down. But those guys earned it. Everybody loves that team.
Even last deadline, while I wouldn't have done it, you can understand it and the metrics around what this team was on both sides of the ball since the Pirtle trade.
You are on the PR team.
No, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it.
Okay, yeah.
But
you can understand it. No, Masai Ujiri, that guy that I mentioned who's Mr. Confident, stood at the podium at the deadline, was like, yeah, like lots of things happen. He's wringing his hands. He's like sweating. He's like, ooh, yeah, that was a tough one. It's a tough one out there. It's a tough one.
That's a different deal than
he literally looked like Sean Payton after he got spotted the 70-point game where he's like, next question. But yeah, no, he did great.
That's a different deal than locking this team into this core for a half decade, right? Whatever it would be. And I guess every contract is tradable in the NBA. Yeah. It's a different deal than running it back for the foreseeable future.
So you don't think it's fair that people are out on Masai right now?
No, I absolutely. Okay. I think it's fair to be super curious of just about every single move since the championship. And yeah, that we understand that, okay, maybe there is like a slight grace period. And
of course
I would think that there's a longer one when you win a championship and all those things you said about Masai the Man and you said endorsements. I mean, they're not making Blackberries anymore, so that's...
No, I don't mean... I mean like he's endorsed in the city and that everyone universally respects him. Like, here's the thing.
Yeah.
If I was the Raptors, right, if I was the ownership group and I was, per se, going to fire Masai Ujiri, I would still be like, hey, man... we need you here in the city. Like, you're just, we can't lose you.
Well,
like, we can't have you go somewhere else. Like,
I think there's I don't think he could ever be fired. Like, I think it would have to be like a Bill Belichick Patriots thing where it's
he could be fired. He could be fired.
I question that. I really do. Like, I feel like maybe he gets bumped upstairs to like some other role. But it's like, you're no longer in basketball operations.
He's not Cliff Fletcher where he's 100 and they're like, yeah, Cliff, don't worry, you're still on the team. He's like, what, I got this. It's like, no, it's like, that's not the scenario.
There is accountability and nobody's infallible, right? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and this is sports. This is part of the thing about sports that we love is that it's a meritocracy. And on merit, he was beloved because he brought this city its first NBA championship in its history. And on merit, things are starting to sour.
Dude, it's not starting to sour. I used to take so much heat whenever I would question any Raptors move.
You're not getting as much heat anymore?
It would be a million. I used to, every time I would do, I remember I didn't like the Gary Trent Jr. trade. I was like, this doesn't really make sense. Norm is a better player. He loves it here. And you're trading him for a guy that's younger, but who's also a free agent. People were like, no, but he's going to sign so much cheaper. And then he signed a 2-year deal for a ton of money. And I went, nah, that was bad. That didn't really work out. That was your best trade asset to kind of flip and take a step backwards. And I remember putting that out and being like, imagine not believing in Masai. And that's what he always used to be. Any type of critical thought you had towards the Raptors, it was met with an onslaught of imagine not believing in Masai. And I think that's gone now. I think that there's definitely still some true believers out there, but they're like in the Terminator movies where it's like they're underground and they're like, they're like the resistance, you know?
What if he trades for OG? What if he trades OG in that package and then Dame doesn't play?
Well, I mean, then if that's the case, then yeah, everybody's fired.
But, but like maybe that's the thinking. It's like
I find that
superstars in
hard to
Toronto.
believe.
Yeah, they would have
Didn't
to
he
know.
say he's not going to play if he comes here?
Well, here's where I'm more forgiving of it. I'm forgiving of them not getting this player. What I'm not forgiving of is the idea that they would be like, oh yeah, well we'll take Damian Lillard if it's for Grady Dick and a future first round pick, because then the Portland's like, why would we ever do that? Like what kind of thinking would we have to have for this to actually be a thing? And and here's the other part of this. If you're the Raptors, like if you're saying that the Damian Lillard with OG team is more of a contender, right? Is that really the tipping point? Okay. But you better win if you're going to talk about giving up like multiple future first-round picks from an organization that desperately needs those picks. Because if those things do go sour, Tom, like that you're talking about, where it's like, hey, Dame actually a year from now, they don't look like a contender, and then he wants out. Like he's willing to give it a shot where he says, you know what, OG, Pascal, Scotty, this group around me, maybe we could win. I don't want to play with Gary Trent Jr. again. They traded him. That's nice. Just whatever. It's like, we're good. We're golden here. A year from now, if he leaves, you're completely screwed. All of a sudden, you're back in the exact same position, and then you're trying to trade him to potentially Miami for cents on the dollar.
He was always going to play wherever he was traded to, right?
I think so, too.
And seems like a total agent creation, because
I
it's
don't know
one
wherever.
thing to want to go. Well, okay.
I think
Anybody
Minnesota
that was
was a realistic spot in terms of they should have done this trade. They should have had more in yeah, man, because they had Karl Anthony Towns.
Sure.
And that was just the most obvious trade in the NBA. Like from
I still think he's showing up.
What, to Toronto or to Minnesota?
Minnesota, yeah. I feel like, well, one, the contract, right? And, you know, wanting to not be a Ben Simmons losing $20 million bucks.
Rudy Gobert cost him a game. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, get me the hell out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean,
trade.
Yes, all of the messaging around him being displeased about being traded anywhere other than Miami was purely from the agent's perspective. And that's what you have to say. If you're the agent and you want to force his way to a singular location, you have to say, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if he's going to show up for you.
Dude, he was breaking up with Portland to go win a championship. It's a totally different thing. Like, I saw people going, so he's willing to go Milwaukee, but not Toronto? Like, it's a city versus city thing. It was like, yeah, Giannis plays there. Well, do we really have to break this down for people? This isn't about going and moving to Milwaukee. This is that he gets to play with arguably the best player on earth next year. And who's a perfect fit for him. Who Damian Lillard, for all of his Matador defense, is just going to turn around and watch Giannis swat whoever gets to the basket. It's a great fit. Anyway, it's time. It's time, Sai. We got to make a move here.
Yeah, but factually.
Yeah.
I guess, the nightmare scenario is like, hey, it's 42 wins this year.
I know, that's
and
what I
hey,
mean.
we won a play-in tournament game. And then lost in the first round. And then he's like, sign everybody up. OG, $200 million. Pascal, max contract. Then, yeah, okay. No, I would, in my heart of hearts, believe that Masai Ujiri is not doing that. But yes, if he does that, if the nightmare scenario plays itself out, we'll walk arm in arm to the fire Masai Island.
Benny, all I'm going to say is that...
How are you going to walk to an island?
Yeah.
Well, we'll swim there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoa, guy thinks he's Jesus. That's what Ben just said. He's like, I am Christ. Yeah. It's like, that's what he brought up. I look at it and just say... How many years in a row is this now where people are like, now's the time. They're definitely going to do something now. And then it keeps not happening. And that was this last deadline. And now this was this entire offseason that I think a lot of people slept through, that a lot of people went, don't worry, Raptors will do something. And there was some excitement about Grady Dick. They went, nice. A fun lottery pick fell to them. A guy that was projected to be a couple picks higher fell a couple picks lower, and that is always viewed by every fan base as a Super Bowl, right? That's one of the most exciting things. And to be fair, last time that happened to the Raptors, it was OG. Where it was the guy that slipped.
It's actually a blogger pick.
Yeah, I just don't think that replacing Fred VanVleet with Dennis Schroeder, Grady Dick, and McDaniels is going to result in all of a sudden this team is like really changing your opinion about them. The team that had the chemistry issues, that has a star in Siakam that's talked about wanting to be the guy and just lost his co-pilot. And is now in the room where the team is kind of in a weird, younger transition, has the coach that's the other. Anyway, there's just so many mixed messages from this team. They're like, hey, we're going to hire the young coach that's about player development. But then we're going to trade all our picks and go get Damian Lillard. It's like, what is happening, guys? What is the actual plan here? It's just like day to day. It's like it's Steinbrenner stuff where every day it's just something completely different. Ugh. whatever. That's the end of this. Let's take a quick break. I need to reset. And then at least there's the Blue Jays, who are providing no frustration right now. And let's talk about the home stats and tone-deaf baseball players. Jobo put it in the doc yesterday. It remains true. The Jays are tied for 25th in Major League Baseball with homers at home and 25th in runs scored, 25th in RBIs, and 24th in OPS at home.
Yeah, because they've cranked up the humidor to levels never seen by Major League Baseball players.
With what? The ball?
The ball.
Oh, you think that it's a ball conspiracy?
I know it's not a conspiracy. No.
It's planned by them. They're killing the other team's balls. And Aaron Judge is just like, there's no amount.
Part of
there's no amount. They should keep pitching to Aaron Judge when he comes to town, is what I've realized. Like, yeah, just keep throwing him meatballs. That pitch Trevor Richards threw him, I was like, come on.
That's entertaining at least.
That's what I thought. I went, are they just trying to wake up the fans here? Yeah. Brandon Belt wanted the cheers so loud. He was like, I'll take Yankees fans cheers. I'll take any cheers.
Signs of life. It
Trevor
doesn't
Richards
matter.
Was like, I got you, Brandon.
Turns out it doesn't matter, though, because, one run was enough to beat them. And, the Blue Jays, if all 5 hits that they had through the first 2 games were all home runs, they'd still be trailing on aggregate at 8-5.
Yeah,
so that's
good.
Not ideal.
I love when you do that stat.
I mean,
and you've been able to do it so many times this year.
Even more than once is insane.
Here's what's crazy. So you and I went to that Rangers game, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like all these home games, these last bunch of home games that they've played, you string them all together and you just look at what the offense has done, and I'm pretty sure that's the stat that you can pull almost every time, which is true.
Even the sweep of the Red Sox at home, it was not on the strength of a bunch of 10-3, 10-9 victories.
They won with essentially no runs, and they won a game because the center fielder had one of the worst defensive plays I've ever seen.
Dalton Varsho hit that ball hard, though. How dare you? Like,
he did hit that ball hard, and that major
Bo Bichette hit a ball really hard yesterday too. That required
was a good one.
Some defense of some magnitude. No, that was good. My thing on the baseball.
That was the best moment of the game. Was Bo Bichette hitting the ball hard? I went nice.
They have stats on how far fly balls are flying at each ballpark and the average distance they go given the same exit velocity, same angle. Last year, Blue Jays were like right there on league average. This year, they're almost 4 feet shorter than league average. So what is that? It's nothing to do with the fences. It's not like, maybe the weather's like that different this season in Toronto than it was a year ago, enough to impact a baseball by 4 feet. I don't think so. That's the baseball. Part of that is also not using the super balls that they were throwing in Aaron Judge games last year, allowing him to hit 62
those baseballs, the cheater balls for Aaron
Turns
Judge.
out they didn't need to do that because he can hit even these dead baseballs over the wall. But my harebrained theory is that the Blue Jays were so afraid of these new dimensions making this ballpark look so Mickey Mouse that they intentionally cranked up the humidor, which only went into Rogers Center in 2021. So they have a very limited sample on how it affects the baseballs. But that it is 100% the baseballs, has nothing to do with the renovations, the dimensions of the Rogers Center.
I got to tell you, you're kind of like Carl Bernstein.
Yeah.
Except for doing any work other than just throwing out
some work. No, this is what I did today.
You found out when the humidor was built. That's pretty good.
Buddy, here's what I'm doing. I'm yelling at
Woodward
everybody.
And Bernstein, Ben Ennis, same. They're all there together.
I thought you were going to be Woodward, but
no.
Here's what I am doing. I'm not doing the work.
I just
other than digging up stats that are publicly available. But what I am doing is yelling at smart people who are capable of doing work, like Shai Davidi, telling them to do it. That's what I did today.
Yeah.
I said,
you
do it.
You put the pressure on
I was like,
them.
dog of the bone. Here's what you should track down. Ask Mark Shapiro. Actually, get him in a room by himself and say, spill the beans on the ball. Give it to me. I know what's happening here.
I just picture them going into that room and they're like, we should have come in here before. It's bad. We're ruining all the baseballs.
Yeah.
The other teams are bringing in their own balls, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what's happening for them when they're hitting home runs at the Rogers Center.
I mean, the entire offensive environment is down. It just turns out that the Blue Jays offense, I mean, it stinks also in an overall sense, but it super stinks at home. And the opposition has hit more home runs at Rogers Center than the Blue Jays.
It's just crazy that we started this year with, boy, is this going to make it too much of a joke ballpark?
That's it. And so was Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins. They're like, did we overdo it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get the fake baseballs.
No, and now all I can think is, I think I texted this to you last night.
Who knows?
I think they need to. Well, I have I have a few people that I send my angry Jays Rolodex, so I start to just go.
When I stop responding, you stop sending them.
Yeah, click, 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 click. I just go through. Like, I need to dump it somewhere because if I did it online, I'd have too many bad tweets.
All right.
You know, like, so it's like I have to have the outlets, just like the steam release valve. And that's where my friends, they just absorb the poison. I think it was one to you where I said, I think next year they should just make it actually the same dimensions of the Florida ballpark, the one that was the true bandbox, where they hit all the home runs.
Oh my goodness.
this year has been so traumatizing from a no home run standpoint that it's like, give us the joke ballpark. No one cares anymore.
Well, that's
joke ballpark it up. Have every person come here, every big writer. You know, Tom Verducci's like, the Blue Jays have made a mockery of this game. Who cares? Let them write that piece. Let the Blue Jays fans have some home runs, please, for the love of God.
The opposition hit a bunch of home runs in 2021 as well.
Yeah.
They were playing in Dunedin. But
Dunedin Park. That's what I'm advocating for, is you take the Dunedin.
I think it's Florida Auto Exchange Stadium or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Hey, that's the perfect dimensions for... People go, hey, what's your favorite stadium? Is it Yankee Stadium? You know, is it Fenway? Is it Dodger Stadium? I go, no, it's Dunedin, Florida, whatever. Auto Exchange
Stadium.
That's my dream.
Yeah.
Let me see it.
Well, I mean, there's no greater example than what I'm talking about, like environmental factors, maybe not the baseball in this, but like look at the actual dimensions of that field that they played at in Dunedin. It's not like overly dissimilar from every other Major League Baseball, but because of whatever, like they didn't have like a third deck on that stadium, or because it was humid in Florida, the balls, they went a long way, especially off the bat of Vladimir Guerrero
Whatever
Jr.
they got to do, make it happen. Okay, so I got a serious question about the Brandon Belt thing.
That wasn't serious? I thought we were having a
serious
conversation.
We're having a serious conversation.
I was taking it very seriously.
Yeah. There's a lot of conspiracy theories and harebrained ideas, but I think people got the message about what the undertone was. Okay. Brandon Belt said before the game to Hazel May, and I should say maybe there's a little bit more context to it, but he said, quote, "We need the fans to be loud. These are important games for us," end quote. Now, okay, I get that this is a more innocent quote than I'm probably making it out to seem. But when a baseball team is like really struggling to score runs at home and has like played as poorly at home as they have over the recent stretch, I do think it's a little tone deaf for a player, especially like an older player like him who has been a part of real championship teams in San Francisco, to even invoke the fan responsibility in what the team is doing. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Like, where are you at just with the quote?
It irks me because I'm not, or wasn't this type of fan, because I've been so removed. I've been in this industry for a long time that it's hard to remember what it was like when I did scream at baseball games. But my fan instinct was not to be a proactive cheerer. It really wasn't. And not to say that there isn't logic to it.
I do cheer. I'm always like clapping the hands. Come on, guys. Like, I'm talking to the player even though they can't hear me. It's a crazy thing. But I am that person at games.
Not that loud, though.
Yeah, but I know. But I am that person who's like, come on, Dalton. Come on. We need one here. Like,
Starting
pick one up
wave,
here. Yeah,
you're like,
no,
3, 2, 1.
No.
No.
Come on. Don't. I'll sue you if you say that again. Anyway.
I'm not a proactive cheerer. I didn't grow up that way. But there is logic to it, right? Like, if you're going to look at reasons why there are home field advantages across all pro sports, it's not just because, hey, the team's good and then it's a positive feedback loop. That can work as well. But it's like, hey, all things being equal, we're going to cheer on the home team, and that's going to give them a modicum of an extra percentage point possibility of winning the baseball game. It's just not how I was wired. And you know what I think where it changes? And maybe the Raptors are a good example of this, is building up fan equity. 92, 93 is a long time ago. 2019, not that long ago. And as much as Masai Ujiri is going through it a little bit right now, you almost give that organization the benefit of the doubt. This Blue Jays team with this core has done nothing but relative disappointment. Haven't won a postseason game, got into the playoffs once in a real season. So that's a tougher one for me. I understand the reason why, and like if you are this proactive fan, I almost wish I was that type of person that would be like, I don't care that it's nothing but disappointment and it's a tough look when they score no runs.
Fans exist. I will say that my mom is that fan.
No,
for sure.
they do
my
exist.
mom is that fan.
You can think of examples, and you know what? See, San Francisco probably won because of all the championships won there. But I can think of, Trey Turner in Philadelphia had an awful start to the season. They kept cheering him on, right? Kept trying to boost his confidence. It happened in Boston at the end of his Red Sox tenure. David Ortiz was bumped down the lineup. Every time he stepped to the plate, there was proactive cheering.
David Ortiz. Yeah, you're going to compare this.
Well, I can't in my lifetime recall a Toronto scenario where people, instead of waiting.
Happened this year with George Springer. George Springer was getting like people behind him during that slump where he went like 0 for 35.
That. Yeah, people were positive. Like, hey, George, you can do it.
Yes,
and I was at the game. Was a franchise record in futility. Yeah,
yeah, and I was at the game where he got it, and it wasn't like a Bronx cheer. It was a real hell yeah George moment.
Yeah, he produced.
Yeah, when he finally got one. Here's why I actually have a bit of a problem with it. It's not because like the fan part of me does get a little triggered. I'm like, oh, it's our fault. Yeah. You know, it's hey everyone.
I know
it's our bad. We should have been louder this whole time, and then these guys would have hit more home runs for us. Oh, we got it. Our bad, Brandon. We'll have a team meeting. We'll have a fan meeting, and I'll discuss the chance that we should have. The reason why I think it's a little annoying is that it has a little bit of pass the buck mentality from one of your vets on the team to me, and maybe I'm reading too much into that, but that's just how I feel. Where it's like, you guys as a group, you're like, I'm like when the fans are booing you and the stadium's going quiet when you're playing poorly, you guys are kind of sitting there like, well, we do have 90 wins, or, you know, we are this many games over 500. What do these people want? It's like, to be good. That's literally all they want.
It's a lot to infer from one sentence. I'm not against taking that tact to
Don't you think
talk
that the
about
best leaders in all of sports and life are all about like your personal accountability and the things that you can control?
100%.
And so if someone's
we don't even know what the question was leading up to this. I'm not against having this conversation.
Like, hey, what we need is more resource. It's like that might be true. You know, that might help you. Hey, we need this, we need that. It's like, okay, sure, but are you failing at your job right now? Yeah. So then just like you're one of the. This guy is like the vocal leader of the team. And so the tone that he's sending out to, people, because this is, he's talking to Hazel Mays, the number one reporter in the Blue Jays. Like, everyone's going to hear this. This wasn't like an offhanded comment to a fan. Like, we need the people to be loud. This was to Hazel May. That the direct message from basically the captain of the team is, we need the fans to be louder. I went, woof.
Not louder.
Cheer us
we
on.
Need them to. Okay, so I even need the question. Hey, Brandon, are you excited?
Question.
Are you excited? I don't think it's in the tweet.
I'm talking to Joe and
no, I know, but
Mackie.
I don't unless you call up Hazel May, which I guess you could do. I'm sure she'd answer your phone call.
Oh yeah, I guess it wasn't televised.
It's not an audio clip.
Yeah.
So
get her on the line.
Yeah.
Someone text Hazel.
The question may have been, hey, you looking forward to this homestand and some pretty meaningful games against some divisional opponents and one in the Rays, in which you might face in the postseason? Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Lots of fans, and hope they get behind us.
You really are working PR.
I'm just saying.
Ben's right, though. Ben's right.
Again, I'm totally with you. We can have this conversation. I love to have it, and I will say, going back to even the Rangers series and getting booed off the field twice,
loved it.
I was not against that, but I will say that even the messaging from the players and the manager was all good. They were like, "Yeah, we stunk."
Literally,
I would have booed us.
The only good part of that Texas Rangers series was that everyone got it and booed.
I don't know. I saw
and
this
it was like
awesome
an empty stadium.
social media video from some fan that really they drove home.
Oh yeah,
my feelings.
I told you that I want that video to end up being like viral for the wrong reasons. I want it to be the Jays win the World Series and everyone's like, just all they do is the
old takes exposed.
I told you, sometimes the ones that hurt the most are just when people like quote tweet it with just the clown emoji and you're like, whoo. You know, there's just just those ones. They're just so sharp. It's just a little stab, you know. Those would hurt.
You were feeling rough over those 6 games in New York and Tampa. But
I wasn't. No, what are you talking about? That's the thing. I always want the team to do well.
Sure.
I'm never hoping for a take that I have that, the team is bad, that it turns out, I'm never rooting for my take over the local team. Plus, okay. I think it's a two things can be true thing. People think that media loves when the team is bad. They go, yeah, because it's easier to talk about. That part of it is true. It's easier to criticize a team than talk about them when they're good. I always wondered what Golden State media talked about with the Warriors when it was like, and another win. Should Steph Curry shoot less? Like, they have to come up with crazy things.
I remember doing radio in 2015, the second half of the season, after, like, a couple of weeks of them being this dominant force. And it's like, I solicited calls. I was like, complain about something. Like, find something to complain about with this Blue Jays team.
Part of it is that cathartic experience as a sports fan. I agree with that. But ultimately, if you're a media member in this country, you want the team to be good. This is the eyeballs happen when the team is good and they're playing in meaningful games. The conspiracy is not what you think it is. It's we want the good. We want playoffs. Go look at Leafs Talk YouTube views when they were in the playoffs versus Leafs Talk's YouTube views on the Friday night game against Detroit in the middle of the year. Like, we want the playoffs, baby.
Yeah,
like the playoffs is there's money, baby. There's money to be made.
Yeah.
I'm just laughing thinking about if Brandon said what you want him to say, and he was like, you know what, you guys keep quiet. We'll hit ourselves out of this thing.
Yeah.
You guys don't like.
Give me the actual best Brandon co-op where it's like, okay, because this is how, but here's the thing. You're right. The question matters because here's what I pictured the question being. Brandon, it's a critical homestand. You guys didn't get any runs yesterday. What needs to change for this offense to find success?
I can guarantee it was not that question.
What needs to change? What needs to change, Brandon? Brandon, you're the leader of this team. What needs to change for you guys to start hitting like you did in the Tampa series?
Fans need to get louder, dude.
You bozos need to get on your seats.
I mean, you've seen our stats all season long. This is, I know Winfield wanted noise, and I understand why. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate how I really want to root for this team. I keep trying to root for this team. But it's like there is the thinnest layer of patience for them right now. Would you not agree with that?
So the timing is a little...
Yeah, it's just like
terrible
every little thing that... You know when you're hanging out with someone who annoys you and then they don't do anything that's really that bad, but then you're kind of like... You say something sort of mean to them.
Oh, yeah.
And then you regret it because you're like,
buddy,
it's not you. It's me. I'm the jerk who's just I should tolerate you more. You're not even doing anything wrong.
I wake up at 4:20 in the morning every day. That's every single day of my life this week is like, it's not your fault. I'm so sorry for yelling.
Okay. So we're going to do more of this probably next week let me actually ask you this first. Are you confident that they're getting in?
Yes. Anything short of that, and I was only 3 years old in 87, but anything short of getting into the playoffs is on par with 87. Yeah. 87 was 7 straight wins to wrap up the regular season, to miss the playoffs, including 3 straight to end the season against the team that directly passed you to get into the playoffs as the Tigers passed them to win the American League East. Okay. So the Blue Jays would have to go on that type of, like, even 1 win, and they're probably getting in. 2 wins, and it's like it's over 80%. 3 wins, obviously they are guaranteed to be in. But if
I don't know if they're getting 3 wins. The Rays could shut it down though, right? That's the real.
They're on the verge of already being locked. They're essentially locked into the top wild card spot. The magic number is 1 because the Orioles controlled the tiebreaker against them. When it comes to the American League East.
Well, I just saw yesterday had the Rays lost, it was done.
Yes.
So Orioles win, and so now it must be just 1 Orioles win, and they clinch.
1 Orioles win or a Rays loss.
Or a Rays loss, yeah, right. So it's very likely that the Jays are there.
It doesn't matter, though. It's baseball.
Well, not only that, it's like the Jays, the first game of the series that they lost, I'm looking up at the Jumbotron, and they have all of the Yankees players listed, right? There's no judge in this game. There were 2 players, Ben, in the lineup that were hitting over 700 OPS. Yeah. The rest were all 6s and 5s.
They did a pretty good job of shutting that lineup down.
They did. It was funny because it was like, Gossman, what a start. And I went, yeah, I guess. Yeah. You were out there. You were pretty close to playing for the Yankees last night.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just...
But, okay.
I'm feeling confident they're going to make it. I really do. To me, it is feeling a little bit like if I was those guys on the 87 team, I'd be looking at this and going...
getting ready to pop the champagne?
No, I'd be going, kind of. I'd be going, hey, if we would have had that 3rd wild card, where you could limp in as the 3rd best team in your division,
although how many teams were in baseball in 87?
Oh, yeah. No, it's the math. There's no way it doesn't work out for this Blue Jays team. Just, there is, I used to hate it I hated it so much in 2016 when people were like, wild card doesn't count as playoffs. I'd go, shut up. And I went to that game, and it was amazing. It was one of the best baseball games I've ever been to. Actually, it's the best one because I sold my tickets for Bat Flip Game, which is my all-time regret. Not really, though, because I watched it with my closest friends. I couldn't choose who to pick. I watched it with a group, and it was just like, it was...
That's why you sold them?
Yeah. I had 2. I told you, I was so broke, and I bought the sheets. I had no money. That it was like, had they made it to a World Series, I was literally going to have to be like, how do you declare bankruptcy? Because I going to have to do this to make this happen. Because I was like, yeah, you can't upsell your friends to go to the games. And that was the thing. I was like, first I bought them, I went, oh, I'm going to sell these things. And I was like, nah, I need to go.
Right.
And I love it
and
too much.
And if I'm going, I'm not going to go next to the guy that spent 3 times face
Exactly. I'm not bringing a friend who's also broke like me into these games. So I was bringing friends. And 2015-16, I had sheets. And that was the only part of them losing to Royals where I was like, okay, there was a small comfort in knowing that, hey, your credit card's not going to have those numbers fly off of there. You're not going to lose 30 grand or whatever on this run.
I know I've done a lot of apologizing for the major sports franchises.
Apologize some more for them. They really need you, mouthpiece.
I would just say that the 2 pitchers they have just recently faced, well, one, the guy yesterday is going to win the American League Cy Young
lucky
Award.
for them, no good pitchers in the playoffs.
No,
that's a new thing this year.
Buddy, what are we talking about? Getting into the playoffs or winning? Because, obviously that's the reason number one that you would doubt their ability to get through a wild card round, let alone win a World Series, is the offense, especially against good pitching. And Michael King, like Caleb Joseph was talking about him being a less comfortable at bat than even Garrett Cole, who again is the best pitcher in the American League.
Say, that's such Garrett Cole hate. I'm sorry, Caleb. That's guy's gonna win Cy Young. He just showed. He's like, I don't know, this guy.
Luke Weaver has a career ERA over 5. Yeah. This is a must win.
I was just gonna.
I already announced it. I already announced it on my show.
Good,
I haven't tweeted it out, but
I was gonna say.
And Blue Jays are 0-1 this season in must-win games, as decided by me, because it was one of the games during the Rangers series. Obviously, it was the game I think we attended, which was the 3rd game. But must win tonight.